Okay, so the recording has started.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Good evening, everyone. My name is Berlotte Antoine. I am the chair for the Parks and Beautification Committee. This is our meeting for today. Today is November 14. We will start our meeting soon. For today, we have two big and beautiful presentations. Um, I, I hope that you all receive the agenda and that we can all follow the agenda. For some reason, you can't hear me. I am also on the phone, so we can have a nice conversation. So if there is anything that you can, if you can't hear me, you will let me know, please. Um, for now, I will go around and ask everyone to introduce themselves just for the record. If I call your name or if you have only a phone number, you can give your name, so we know who is here with us. First, I will start with I see Anna. The last name is with a K, Kellyon. I don't know if I pronounce it well. Can you please unmute
I,
and introduce yourself?
I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm having issues hearing you guys as well. My name is Anna Killian. I'm with New York City Department of Design and Construction, the OCON Outreach and Notification Unit.
Nice to meet you. I have Laura, and the last name is Haak. Can you please unmute yourself and introduce yourself? No, it's on me. So we can go back to you later. I also have a phone number ending with 04. I think that the people on the phone they probably have time to so I will, yes. Phone number with 50. Can you please unmute and introduce yourself? So I will go with Mr. David Mendel.
Hi, good evening. I'm David Mandel from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs Percent for Art program.
Nice to meet you. And I have Adam. The last name, they gave it to me, Gansr.
That's me, Adam Ganzer. I am
Yes.
hi, I'm the Executive Director of New Yorkers for Parks. I'm here to talk about the budget for parks and the campaign that we've been running for the last few years in hopes of getting a letter from you all. Daniel, who was supposed to be giving the presentation, had a baby daughter about 10 hours ago, so he's unavailable.
Oh,
Yeah,
congratulations.
I'll tell him that.
Please do.
So that's a great thing. So people will be coming, but because it's already time, we need to get started. My report will not be long. As the chair of this committee, I will welcome you all, and I will let you know that for our event will be on December 15. The tree lighting ceremony will be on December 15, and you will receive additional email to participate. Please, if you can, be at the board meeting tomorrow so you can have, you can get additional information for this event. So we need committee members to participate. The community will participate, and we will have toys wrap up. So if you know any volunteers, please let them know. They can reach out to Ms. Fraser in the office to put their name on the list so they can volunteer for that event, and that will be on December 15 at 5:30 p.m. We will be giving out toys to the kids in the community. So that's one thing. I wanted to report that we did a walkthrough this past weekend. We visited children playground. We took some pictures that we'll be submitting to the Office of Councilwomen Sarah Lewis because they had requested to see what we are asking them to do. That's the second thing. And there is also more events that I will send out to the members by email. So please check your email so we can work together. We have two presentations for tonight. Now I will end the mic to Adam, who will present to you. If there is any questions after his presentation, please feel free to unmute yourself and to ask some questions. You can also use the feature on the WebEx if you need to ask any question. Now I give the mic to you, Adam, for your presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Should I just hit share at the bottom here?
You have share on the top. Yeah, you have share also on the bottom. Try this, any of them.
Okay, let's see here. Can you see
Good.
that?
Yes.
All right, now I need to figure this out, start from the beginning. All right, how's that look?
Good for me.
Okay, great. Again, Adam Ganzer, I'm from New Yorkers for Parks. We are a not-for-profit organization that focuses solely on New York City's parks and open spaces. We've been around for about 100 years. We started something called the Playfair Coalition several years ago, which is roughly 450 organizations, park stewards, neighborhood groups, community groups, folks in public health. We started this with the League of Conservation Voters and DC 37, which is the Parks Workers Union, all in an effort to bring more awareness and advocacy around our city's parks. This is meant to be a incomprehensible list of so many people. We do a lot of research, including research locally by community board district. If you haven't seen the profile for your community board, we have a 2-page document that's available on our website focusing on each individual community board. We also issued a report this spring called 1% for Parks Impact Report. Our campaign is to get 1% of the city budget for our city's park system for operations and maintenance. We've been amplifying this since the last election, and frankly, this has been a campaign that's been around for 20 years. It seemed like a momentous time during COVID when everybody was relying on parks for us to bring this back, to get the new administration to be focusing on parks more than previous administrations have. Just a quick history of our city's parks budget. In the 1970s, we spent about 1.4% of the city budget on parks. After the fiscal crisis in late 1970s, we went down to about 0.5%, which is where we've been ever since. Most other agencies have rebounded since that time. The police department, transportation, Department of Sanitation, Department of Corrections have all seen their budgets with inflation included in this rise by 127% or more, up to 165% since 1980. The Parks Department has stayed at just 72% increase since 1980. Most other cities spend well over 1% of their city budget on parks. Competitive cities like Minneapolis, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, et cetera, between 1 and 5%. They also spend much more per acre, and it shows. And I just want to sort of make that clear. Most of these cities, actually every one of these cities, have houses with backyards. They don't have anywhere near the density that we have in New York City. Our parks are our backyards. Just another quick data point. Since 1976, we've seen the population grow by roughly 1.3 million people. During that same time, we've seen the Parks Department as an agency lose over 1,000 workers. This despite the fact that we have, again, more people. We have more people in our parks who are a more health conscious city. And we also see our parks used year round. With global warming, we're seeing many more people in our parks, certainly during summer, but also in spring and fall. This plays out very, very specifically across the lines of the budget for the Parks Department, but a couple of examples. New York City's parks, we have 1 gardener for every 114 acres. In San Francisco and Chicago, we have 1 gardener for every 18 acres, just a completely different setup in other cities. the Parks Department has a huge portfolio, including rec centers. You can see here funding on rec centers. We're spending just above half of what we used to spend in 1978 on rec centers. And just straight up staffing, we have just over half the number of staff members staffing those rec centers than we did in 1978. We just have not rebounded, and the Parks Department is operating on a real shoestring budget. Again, this isn't an anti-police statistic, it's just for scale. The police department this year spent $670 million on overtime alone, and that is more than we've spent on our entire park system. So we're arguing that our priorities are a little bit off in New York City. Current state of parks, as I said before, we're seeing increased usership across the board, and that's been trending that way certainly before COVID, but once COVID hit, more and more people have been using their parks. They've been using them throughout the year, as I said before. We're seeing a huge increase in concerns around safety, and a report from the administration itself showed that there was roughly 30% increase in crimes in parks against people and the same against property. What would an increase in the budget to 1% mean? You can just use your imagination. You would have clean bathrooms that are open later. You would have clean and well-maintained parks throughout the year. You'd have staff in parks that could be building relationships with their communities, quicker repairs so that we're not seeing things offline as long as we are, access to natural areas, trimmed trees, mowed lawns, just straight up simple basic maintenance that the Parks Department can't do right now. Faster 311 calls, free cultural and recreation programs in our parks. We used to see tons of programming from the Parks Department in our city's parks, and they just haven't been able to do that. They don't have the resources, and again, improve safety. We have around 250 PEP officers for 30,000 acres of parkland in New York City. If you see one, it's like seeing a unicorn. So we just do not, the Parks Department just doesn't have the staff it needs to do the basic job. Some slightly general measurable benefits of our city's parks, beyond just being joyful places to meet friends and family and get exercise. We could save $1 billion on health costs with investing in our parks. Environmental, we just saw huge storms and flooding throughout the city, which all could be mitigated if our parks were better maintained, drainage was better maintained, et cetera. And there's just a ton of money that our parks bring into our tax system through tourism spending and visitation near parks. Our campaign is one that the mayor himself has signed on to. He signed on to this when he was running for office, and he's said as much when he's been in office, but he has not followed through. We have nearly every city council member signed on to this. If your city council member is not on this list, it doesn't mean they're against it. It just means that we haven't gotten to them again yet. We have around 15,000 petition signatures at this point, people saying that they support 1% for parks. And right now what I'm doing is I'm going to community boards across the city. We have about 35 letters from different community boards, and we're hoping to get all 59 by January. I just got off of a call, similar Zoom call with the Queens Community Board earlier. And what we're asking is if you would write a letter saying that you support 1% for parks, be a letter to the mayor and your local council member. We have a template that you can use, or you can write it yourself. The main thing is if there are issues that you want to bring up in the letter that are resonant with your community and your community board, that's great. We just want to make sure that you also put in there that you support 1% for parks, if you so choose to support that. We also have a petition, which I mentioned earlier. If you're interested in this, I can send you a link to the petition. We're trying to get as many signatures as we can before the budget season happens. And last thing I'll say before I turn over to questions is that this is actually a really dark time for our city's parks. 3 years ago, we saw an $85 million cut to the budget. That was the first year of COVID. It did not make sense for that budget cut to happen when we were all relying on parks. Within a month of that budget cut, our parks, based on the parks system's metrics themselves, were in the worst shape that they had been in 20 years. On the table right now is a 15% budget cut to parks, which would be about $75 million. That's just short of what was cut 3 years ago. So what will happen if these cuts go through is we're going to have another year with dirty, unsafe parks that are not well kept. And we're trying our best to prevent that from happening. And this is all a part of that effort. If anybody has any questions, or I can put the presentation down unless somebody has any questions about the presentation itself. With that, I'll close it out.
Question, can I go?
Yep.
You mentioned the 1%. How will that affect Community Board 17 particularly? Can you please describe that again?
Yeah, the 1% for Parks campaign is to the Parks budget itself, so that the Parks Department with communities decides how it spends its money to operate and maintain its city's parks. Your community board will receive increased maintenance workers, they would increase gardeners, et cetera, and that would be responsive to what your committee and the community has put together as its priorities. This is not about building new parks. It's simply about maintaining existing parks. So if you have fields or trees or lawns that are not being well kept, if you have bathrooms that are out of order, if you don't have enough PEP officers in your parks, if you don't have rangers in your parks, these are things that the community board would make known to the city through your representation, both through your council member and through your own voices as a community board, to ensure that you're getting the services that you need in your community board. We are not in a position to tell the Parks Department or the city where it spends its money. However, we do know, I work with a lot of conservancies, and we do know that there are areas in the city that do not have the same not great conditions and not well-maintained parks. And those are certainly not the priority. The priority are the areas of the city that do not have resources coming in privately to help maintain their city's parks. And it's fairly simple to figure out where those are. The Parks Department itself has all sorts of reports that it does on conditions of the parks throughout the city and within your community board. And the other thing I'll mention is that this isn't going to happen overnight. This is a long-term campaign. We want to get there incrementally, and we need to see the administration working to get to that goal.
Thank you. Anyone with a question, please use the raise hand feature, and ask your question now.
I'm having a hard time understanding you. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I couldn't hear the question.
Yeah, I know that my internet, connection is bad. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand for the question.
Adele.
Yes, Ms. Adele?
Yes, good evening. What I'd like to know is how do I get my park cleaned up in my areas? Because some of the parks need a lot of cleaning.
Yeah. No, I will say this, there's a situation right now where we have fewer parks workers now than we did before COVID. There's a hiring freeze at the Parks Department because of the budget crunch right now. So we're seeing, as you are calling out right now, we're seeing conditions in parks deteriorate already. My advice to you is that you should have a parks representative that comes to these meetings. And if you don't, you can find out who that is and relay your concerns directly to that person so that you can find out what's going on with the management of those spaces. The other thing I would do as a community board is reach out to the council members that overlap with your district to make sure that they're aware of the conditions in your city's parks and get answers. The city, the agency responds to people when there are conditions that are not great. They may not fix them, but they will respond to those inquiries. So I would suggest that you go through the community board and you go to your local elected.
Especially in CB17, pretty much are going neglected. The green spaces are meant to be being up. That's also part of the parks, but the parks themselves, like you said, they are starting to deteriorate. So thank you.
Thank you.
So someone else before? Anyone else with a question for this presentation before we move to the next?
So before you move on, again, what we're asking for is the committee to vote to issue a letter, which would be then brought, I guess, to the full board.
And you said that you have a template that you want to share with us.
Yes, if you vote to, sort of generally, we will issue a letter. I can give you a template that is very simple. Community Board 17 supports the 1% for Parks campaign. I can also give you an example of, one of the 35 plus other letters that have been written by other community boards, if you'd like to see what other community boards have done.
I would love that. I would love to see the letters, and then we can discuss that with the members to see, what they want to do, and then we can get back to you. I see Miss Adele again. You can go.
Well, I said if it needs more money for the parks in the city, especially in CB17, I would say yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah. A
Yes,
little close.
especially for the local community boards, I'd say yes.
We will go to a vote anyway after today and see how we can get back to for this. Because I can decide on my own, and you will need a vote anyway. So what I suggest is after today we can discuss that and get back to you. How about that?
So then I will send you a letter that you all can discuss, and then I'll follow up with you. Does that sound like the way to go?
Yes.
Okay, happy to do that.
Any other ideas before we close this presentation? Anyone else? Question or any suggestion? None.
Great. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to be in touch. This is the work we do. We're happy to do it, and I will follow up with you with a couple of examples of letters and a template, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for our
All right.
presentation, and I hope that we can have more presentations after this one, because I think that will be the first, batch of letters. Maybe there will be something else coming, and
Yes,
we would love to be part of it too. Thank you.
that's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Now I know that the first presentation was this presentation was supposed to be second. The first one was supposed to be with Daniel Mendel from the Department of Cultural Affairs. We will be talking about the trellisism art, and you can take the floor and introduce yourself again. If you need to share any presentation, you do the same by the share button. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Again, this is David Mandel from the Department of Cultural Affairs, Percent for Art program. Here to share our presentation for the public artwork that's associated with the new Shirley Chisholm Recreation Center facility. I wanted to point out that also attending the meeting tonight is Arthur Liu and Laura Hack, who are from Studio Gang, which is the designer, architect for the facility. And Anna, who introduced herself earlier, is from Department of Design and Construction, who is the city agency that's managing that project. So just a very quick intro. We first came to the community board back in March 2022 and announced that this public artwork is going to happen as part of the project. And we announced the Percent for Art program and the process. We asked for any suggestions for artists as well as panel members to attend the meetings. And we did hear back your suggestions, and we had 2 different panel meetings to select an artist and hear different proposals. Ultimately, an artist named Vanessa German was selected for the project. She's an amazing artist, and since basically last March, she's been working on her conceptual design, which we're now going to share with you. So conceptual design, this is basically the idea, the concept. Nothing has been built yet. So this is for the future rec center. This presentation will tell you about what the art project is going to be all about. And I think you'll find it really interesting because there's a lot of community participation involved. And there'll be some information about how you can get in touch or get involved when it comes time for community participation. So I'm going to play the presentation right now.
My name is Vanessa Jernigan, and I am coming to you from Mountains to share with you our plan for the Brooklyn Museum of Love, Chisholm Recreation Center. So excited to share this with you. First slide, please. This is me when I was a little girl. I grew up in Los Angeles and I was raised by Sandra German, my mother, whose birthday is actually today, November 8th. She passed away in 2014, but my mother raised us, me and my siblings, to be raised at the same time. The central engine of my practice as an artist is love, and I'm defining love as creative understanding, redemption, transformative goodwill. I am a citizen artist, which means the engine of my practice, the love and creativity, is relationship with human beings, places, and the places where our lives happen. So I want to make art something to say and have something to do, and also does the work of helping us to stay whole as human beings in a world that is often extreme. And I believe in the power of art, and I believe in the power of love. From this engine arose this idea for the Museum of Love and Wonder at a recreation center for the body, also be a recreation center for the heart, spirit, for our sense of community, and ultimately possibility. Next slide, please. Here's some of the work that I made. So I'm making work, as I said before, engined by love and the power of love and what can love do, love show up. So I make figures, and the power inside of them is sort of authorized by what I call human technology, which is grace, patience, forgiveness, acceptance, gratitude. So I'm working with a lot of different kinds of materials and making a lot of figurative based work. Of the bundles that you see on this work are actually prayers. They are prayers for healing and they are prayers for peace. Next slide, please. Work inspired by community. So I'm not making one single object at a time. I'm making entire community objects. You see in this series of bird figures that I've made, and you can look at them and see that there's found objects with them. So I'm making sculpture with everyday materials, and I'm also fabricating into like extreme materiality of being right where you are, glass bottles and accessing mirrors and old shoes fits right in with my practice that also has extremely high technical levels sometimes. Next slide, please. I love and this is a look at my space in Pittsburgh, the art house. The way the art house works is whenever the doors open, anyone can come in. That love help to make us just feel at home. And so this is a house in my neighborhood that's filled with art supplies, and it's a place where anybody can come. Next slide, please. I'm also working in ritual and social healing. So this is a piece called The Blue Walk, which we've done in different places around the country with communities on the ground who join in and actually give us the purpose for the walk. So this was a blue walk, actually about grief. It took place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where there is a lot of reason to have release grief from the earth and the body. Slide, please. This is a work that I just had up at the National Mall, inspired by Mary Anderson's 1939 Easter Sunday concert. This is the first exhibition of temporary public art that has ever been on the National Mall, and I'm so honored to be a part of that. Slide, please. I am so excited to share with you the ideas for the Brooklyn Museum of Love and Wonder. Clearly, this is a site map. It will be real one day. These are the levels. One day you all will be there. We will be there. Next time. Museum of Love and Wonder. I'm excited to co-create, which this is not just me, Vanessa German, the artist.
We're not hearing everything. I don't know if anyone else have an issue hearing, but we're not hearing clearly. Everything.
Put something on the chat too, but I don't think that he was in.
The ways that our neighborhood inspires us to be in connection, the things that we love about our neighborhood, love about the relationships that we have in our community will be celebrated in this space through artworks that are co-created of residencies in the community. So I will come to the community and listen to as many stories as I can about how people feel, where joy, where they feel inspired. People make physical artworks that will populate building as their own museum. So let's see the next slide. We're going to create this together, and we're going to talk a lot about love and inspiration and track all of that data. We're going to make a map of where people love and inspired, make artwork from that. Next slide, please. Thank you. I co-create with whoever wants to co-create, and even some people who might think they don't want to co-create, inspired and they make with us. So this artist residency can take place literally at a bus stop, even conversation. It can take place in the front of a grocery store. It can take place wherever people are. And then we'll have some formal residencies that can take place at schools and farmers markets and libraries. So think about it. To have for a several day.
I don't know if you can adjust the sound because it's really hard. I thought that it was only me, but other people also are saying that it's not clear. Anything that can be done for the voice?
Are you're having a lot of difficulty hearing?
Yes, not
Oh,
only
very.
me, because other people are saying the same thing in the chat. So I don't know if you can do something about that.
Look, I'll try to continue it. Maybe it's just the speed of the connection. Let me try one more time, and if not, I'll walk you through the rest of it.
All right.
Building, and inside the building there will be a series of cabinets that are specifically made and built in to the actual building, and these cabinets will contain that co-create.
There is no voice at all now.
So that everything that is we make in co-creation is well taken care of for these cabinets that will be placed in this recreation center. So not only will you see the basketball court and the swimming pool, but you might see a pair of bronze hands from the person the best pizza, something like that. And all throughout the building, there'll be places of magic and surprise where artworks greet you, even in places like the locker room. So it will be a place where you can come to play basketball and then walk around the corner to go visit a sculpture that your grandmother helped make or something. Next slide, please. Another look at, so there will be cabinets that house works of different sizes. Again, coming across them in space where you might not necessarily expect to see so much exciting and ecstatic artworks. Slide, please. So we're also going to have part of the residency where people just write letters to their community, how they want to feel there, what they want the future to be like, what they love, where their grandmother lived and made the best pound cake. In those letters, we will actually photograph and then we will commit them into the earth so that that spirit, that love, that community, that connection is really part of the soil and the soul of the building. Next slide, please. So this is me at the farmer's market in Arkansas, talking to someone really intimately about what they love and what they dream about. And it's engagements like this, from simply on the sidewalk with 2 chairs and maybe like a cart to take notes where we can have conversation, but we where we'll be at specific spaces. Again, like I said, if you know a space, if you know an organization, we have an opportunity to be in connection with you. Next slide, please. So, do you have a space? Do you have a community group or organization? Some of the places we're thinking about: libraries, public schools, child care providers, kids. I want to hear from anybody who really has a story to tell. So take a look at this. Is this you? Are you a friend of Hazel's books and you want us to do something there? Connect with us. Next slide, please. So some of the artwork that we make will literally be made with objects that the community gives us. What you see in this image is a pair of boots that a steel worker worked in for decades. And these boots were given to me by the son of someone, and I made an entire sculpture with glass beads and old nails to represent that spirit of hard work, sacrifice that this man made to carry his family through. So I'll have conversations with people, and sometimes for an object that can go into a work of art, and all of this will be documented. The entire museum will be documented in a book. In libraries, it'll be available in different spaces, so that the stories remain with the artworks. Next slide, please. So these are some simple ways that the voices of community members can show up, are in a series of mirrors that we can make. So I did this for another community project, and just asking people really what they needed to help them feel liberated in their life. You see these mirrors say, cry more, be here, you are whole the whole time. So can you imagine walking through a recreation center and seeing a mirror that just lets you know, yes, you are whole and you've been whole. Next slide, please. We will be transforming ordinary objects because part of the residency, since I'll be living in the community, is actually receiving objects from the community. So you see a table tennis paddle, you see an adorned cover of Serena Williams and a lot of glass beads and rhinestones, and then you see a piece on the end that's covered with silver spoons. So can you imagine going to Hazel's Books and people just bringing us one spoon and that spoon coming together to tell a story about family? So if you want to participate, connect with us. Next slide, please. And outside in the beautiful park that will invite you into the Shirley Chisholm Recreation Center, we will have benches. So in residency space, we will be tracing the hands of elders in the community. And I'm defining elder as somebody who responds to our elders and people that I will meet, and we will trace their hands, and those hands will be cut out of steel and they'll actually make a bench. So you can imagine really being held up for elders. And these will be 2 benches and they will be on the outside park around the recreation center. Next slide, please. Again, showing different materials and different spaces and how you can sort of see some scale here. Museum grade cabinets, conservation is taken into great consideration with the objects that we put in there and how the cabinets are made and how they'll operate. Next slide, please. And surprising artworks in lockers and around the corner at the top of the stairs. Objects that are really going to be created to be really visually arresting to the heart, to the spirit, and to the imagination also. Next slide, please. And what's really exciting is also really the child spirit house. So a spirit house is a place where I imagine you can sit and daydream and imagine yourself wherever you want to be in this planet, on this planet. And the spirit house will be child scale and it will be colorful and it will include drawings that some children make in residency. So it's a space that is sacred and a space that invites dreaming and imagination. It will be made of a light enough weight material to be sturdy and to be placed in the outside of the children's space on the floor. Next slide, please. So, like I said, care and conservation of these objects that will be in this space for decades is of the utmost importance to us because we don't want to make objects that don't look great in 5 years, 10 years. So the materials that we work with are going to be really the most sound materials for decades of care. Ceramic, glass beads, archival papers, but also the cases will have, within the cases, some objects will have very specific conservation cases. So you can imagine a specialized cabinet with a specially created object that has its own environment around it also. Next slide, please. So, like I said, do you have a space? Are you a part of a community that would love to tell their story, to tell what they love, what they care about in their community, relationships they care about? Please get in touch with us because we have so much time to plan this. So it is you that we want to hear from. If you want to see your community's words and stories and artworks, please reach out to us. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. This is the art house that we saw earlier, and it is about 150 people standing in a group hug. And that this is something that I could see one day at Shirley Chisholm Recreation Center. Community gathered together in loving, caring support of each other. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Okay. Thanks for your patience. I'm sorry if there was any issues with the audio. I will follow up by sending you all the slides in a slide deck so that you can review them more closely. Is there any part, would you like me just to give a quick overview of what the project is again?
Is because we had time. I thought it was only me, but I think everybody else has the same issue.
Okay.
Yes.
So once again, artist Vanessa German will be creating a piece for the Shirley Chisholm Rec Center to be integrated into the facility. It's called the Museum of Love and Wonder, and it's a very community-driven project. Vanessa is going to be having a residency in the community where she goes to different sites and sets up at different places, different organizations, talks to people, interviews them, and also collects objects. She's going to be creating different sculptures and objects that will be displayed throughout the building that reflect kind of the hopes and dreams and wishes of the community. She's also creating some other moments, such as a children's spirit house on the rooftop that children can sit inside. There's also going to be outside the facility a bench that pays tribute to elders of the community with traced hands that will be like elders holding up the community. There's going to be some workshops and ritual involved where letters will be buried in the ground that express wishes for the future rec center to kind of go into the ground and become a part of the site itself. So as the community can actually be literally a part of the site. The residency will be taking place next year, I believe, in the spring. So Vanessa will be looking for folks to partner with, places to go, people to meet. And we have an email address that I'll share with you where if you have ideas for this, you can respond to that. But also there'll be, when there are opportunities, when the schedule is set, we'll be sure to share it with you so that you don't miss any chances to get involved. And so again, this is in the early, still in the development stages, but we're hoping, we'd love to have a letter of support from the community board, if you'd like, in support of the project. But from here, we'll keep you informed of what's coming up with the artist residency and when the different activities would be taking place.
Thank you. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand and ask your question while we have the presentation. Yes, go ahead, Miss Hadel.
I like to know whether any other artists other than just one, do we get to maybe see other artists, their perception of what they want to present?
I think the question was about, are you going to see other artist presentations?
Yes.
Oh, so Vanessa German, the presentation you just saw, that's the artist that was selected for the project. As part of the process that took place over the previous year or so was when there was different panel meetings and selections and reviews when Vanessa was selected. So Vanessa's the artist that was selected for this project.
Okay, and were you invited to that panel?
Could you repeat that?
We invited to that panel last year. You said it was last year, but the year.
The panel meetings?
But I would like to be invited to these meetings.
You're breaking up a little bit, but I can recap the project. I originally came to the community board in March 2022 to announce that this project was taking place. Then the panel meetings took place in April and in May. And from there, the artist was selected. So there were members of the community board in attendance, other community stakeholder groups, the local elected representatives, as well as also we have a few arts professionals on the panel as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. As you were waiting for someone else, at this point, do we have to vote on the odd pieces, or it's already set what will be there?
No, at this point in time, we're just sharing with you like what the upcoming plan is, and we'd love to just have a letter saying that you support this upcoming project and what's planned. We're not asking you to vote on this artist, but more of to be in support of this project.
Anyone else with questions before I ask my second one? Please raise your hand and ask your question. I can go. You also mentioned a place for the elders in the presentation that was mentioned. I would love to know more about that. What do they call a place for the elders? What would that be? How will that look?
The place where Vanessa is designing a seating benches for outside. You may have seen the one image that shows different hand shapes of hands holding up the person that'd be sitting on the bench. and that she sees as a place to kind of embody the spirit and to engage with elders, as well as with the whole project. Collecting objects, doing interviews, talking. But that's one specific place that I know she's thinking of like the multi-generational community of the neighborhood. So that's one opportunity in particular that's going to be kind of dedicated to elders of the community. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else with questions? You can raise your hand for your question because my next question will be, how can we as member of the Parks and Beautification Committee contribute to that project?
What could you do? Is that what you're saying?
As a group, as a
Yeah.
committee, how can we participate?
Sure. Well, we'd love to, as these workshops are being planned in the community engagements, we'd love to share with you what's coming up so that you could spread the word to the community, to get involved and not miss the opportunity. So we'll share with you, all the upcoming opportunities, and if there are organizations or schools or individuals that you think would be good to include in the outreach, that's an opportunity too. We'll be doing that research as well, but if you have suggestions, we can collaborate on that. But we'll keep in conversation with you as these public engagement is getting closer.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to know if Miss Adele has another question because you typed something on the chat. I don't know if it's a question or something that you would like to. Yeah, you can unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so you said all right. Thank you again. I don't know if there's anything else that was not part of the presentation that you would like to add before I let you. Anything that was part of the presentation that you would like to add, that's the time to do it.
No, that's it for us. Looking forward to keeping you informed. And like I said, we'd love to have, if you feel so, to have a letter of support from the community board uh, to document, that you're in support of the project. But otherwise, we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Any more questions? I will email you. If there is any more questions from the committee members, I will definitely send them to you.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. All have a great night.
You too. So for the committee members, I will definitely follow up with you for the tree lighting ceremony. That will be on December 15th. Please have that on your calendar. Everybody well last year. If you are on this call, will be called again to help out. If there is any question for this tree lighting ceremony, I will be happy to answer. If not, we can close our meeting. Now it's 8:27. If there is no question, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Any more questions for me for anything that we discussed today before we adjourn? Nothing heard. Um, can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? And I will follow up with you by email and phone calls.
Hi, this is Jackie Williams. I make a motion that the meeting be adjourned at 8:27.
Thank you, Ms. Jackie. And I see Ms. Adele raising her hand. Are you second? Do you want to second this motion?
Oh, yes. In my area, they have a lot of dumping in the green spaces. I'm going to contact about that.
Okay, so I think we can schedule a time where we will have a very small committee to follow up on the items because those are very important things as well.
Okay.
Very good. Yes, thank you. At this point, we'll adjourn this meeting. It was like Miss Jackie and Miss Adele who second. Thank you so much for your time. Please wait for my expect my call or email for our next event on December 15th. All the gift wrapping, all those things will happen before, so we are sure that we can have a nice event. Thank you all for your time and thank you for your participation in our Parks and Beautification Committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night. Good night.
Indeed.